When people talk about marriage, they don't warn you about the silence, not the quiet comfort of two souls at peace, but the hollow silence that swallows a room when trust has evaporated. I knew something was wrong with my wife long before I ever caught her cheating. You don't need to see the evidence when the laughter fades, when conversations shrink to single syllables, and when she suddenly guards her phone like a hold state secrets. I had been married to Emily for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had dreams, traveling, buying a home, starting a family when the timing was right. Yet somewhere along the way, she drifted. At first, it was small things. Coming home late from work, the way her smile seemed rehearsed, or how her eyes flicked away when I tried to look deeper into them. Then it was bigger. Excuses stacked like bricks, nights out that didn't add up, phone calls she took in the car instead of in the house. The night everything broke was strangely quiet. We were sitting at the dinner table, half-eaten plates in front of us. I had finally confronted her, not with proof, but with the weight of my suspicion. "Emily," I said, my voice steadied on my hands, trembled under the table. "Is there someone else?" For a moment, she froze. Then came the smirk, the one that would be seared into my memory forever. "If you think I'm cheating, maybe you should just move out," she snapped, her tone dripping with defiance. It was as if she wanted me to beg, to plead for her to reassure me, to fight for her affection. But something inside me shattered right then. I realized that the woman across from me wasn't my wife anymore, not in spirit, not in loyalty. "All right," I said, pushing my chair back. "I will." Her expression faltered. She hadn't expected that. But I didn't give her the satisfaction of watching me crumble. I packed a bag that night and walked out the door. For the first time in years, I felt free. The first 5 days away from her were surreal. I stayed in a small apartment I rented on short notice, the walls bare, the mattress on the floor. It wasn't home, but it was mine. Each morning, I woke up without the gnawing anxiety of wondering who she was texting, who she was smiling for when I wasn't around. It was quiet, but this time, the silence was healing. On the 5th day, my phone buzzed. It wasn't Emily. It was her father, Frank. I'd always respected him. A hard man, stern in his ways, but one of integrity. He had welcomed me into the family. And for years, I'd looked at him like a second father. Now, his voice on the line was trembling with barely restrained anger. "Son, where are you living right now?" he asked. I told him. He said nothing else, just hung up. Later that afternoon, Frank stormed into Emily's house. A mutual friend who lived on their street told me later how loud he was, how neighbors could hear his voice booming through the walls. "Do you know what he just did?" Frank screamed at his daughter. Emily, I imagine, tried to play innocent, tried to paint me as overreacting. But Frank wasn't fooled. He knew. Somehow, he had found out the truth. The late nights weren't work. The girls' trips weren't girls' trips. The flirty texts weren't jokes. She had been cheating, and now she had pushed away the one man who actually loved her. What she hadn't counted on was that her father admired me, not just as his son-in-law, but as a man. I had always been respectful, hard-working, and loyal. I had been there for family dinners, birthdays, Christmas mornings. I had never raised my voice at her, never hurt her, never strayed. Frank saw that, and when I finally walked away, he saw his daughter for what she had become, entitled, reckless, ungrateful. While Emily tried to twist the story, Frank cut her off. "You thought he would beg you? You thought he'd crawl back while you ran around with God knows who? You just lost the best thing that ever happened to you." For the first time, Emily realized the gravity of her actions, not because she regretted betraying me, but because the shield of her father's approval had crumbled. In the days that followed, Frank called me. His voice was softer now, weighed down by disappointment. Not in me, but in her. "I'm sorry, son," he said. "I raised her better than this. You deserve better. You still do." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken things. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call me. You'll always be family to me." That was the moment I knew I had made the right choice. I hadn't just walked away from a cheating wife. I had walked toward a future where my worth wasn't questioned, where my love wasn't taken for granted. Emily texted me weeks later, long messages filled with apologies, excuses, desperate attempts to rekindle what she had so carelessly destroyed. I didn't reply. Not once. She had gambled with my heart, expecting me to beg her to stay. Instead, I taught her the most painful lesson of all, that a good man, once betrayed, doesn't linger. He leaves. And sometimes, the loudest closure isn't a fight, or a screaming match, or tears on a doorstep. Sometimes it's silence. The silence of a man who has finally chosen himself. Emily lost me the moment she told me to move out, never believing I actually would. But when her father stormed into her house 5 days later, she realized something even worse. She hadn't just lost her husband. She had lost the respect of the one man whose approval she thought she'd always have. Me? I walked forward, lighter with every step, knowing that the best revenge against betrayal is not anger, not bitterness, but freedom,